back to the Worldlands podcast. I am your host, Michelle Evans, and today I am joined by Shannetta Griffin, Executive Director and CEO of the Maryland Aviation Administration. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Of course, we were looking forward to this one. So you recently took the helm at BWI in April of 2025. This was after 4 years of leading FAA's airport operations nationwide. What drew you from overseeing 3,300 airports across the country to just focusing specifically on Maryland's aviation infrastructure?
So while I was at the FAA, I served as the executive or the associate administrator of airports, which meant that oversight of those airports was about safety, it was about funding, it was about efficiency of the national airspace system. So then when I decided to take the job, which has been an honor and a blessing to be here at the Maryland Aviation Administration in charge of BWI Airport, in charge of Martin State, and then our regional airports across the country, that the work that we did at the FAA in regards to, one, we gave out billions of dollars, over 20 billions of dollars to airports across the country, but really it was more about solving problems, solving complex issues that airports are facing all over this country. So being able to come and bring that knowledge base to BWI Airport, as I mentioned, has been an honor and a blessing. But being able to now take and hone in on one airport or two airports, or again, our regional airports across the country, and those complex problems that we solved at the FAA are just the same types of problems that we're experiencing here at BWI and at Martin State. So again, being able to be here, being able to use the talent base that I had there, the knowledge that I gained, and then finding that the people that worked here had that same knowledge, right? That had that same expertise, and then dedicated to the airports and the growth, the safety of the airports. Same type of atmosphere, but just that one airport makes it a lot simpler.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can imagine. So I saw that you have 40 years in civil engineering, which I don't see how that's possible. You do not look old enough to have 40 years of any type of experience.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Michelle. I appreciate that.
What's your through line in your career that keeps you kind of energized about airports as an economic engine?
Well, I'll tell you one, it really all starts with the people. No matter where you go, no matter what business that you're in, it's all about the people that make it successful. Transportation, aviation serve as hubs across the entire country. We serve as the gateway to all types of things. What people experience, how they enjoy life, how they transfer to different places, how they handle their business. Aviation is the catalyst to that. But again, it starts back with the people. So one of the things that I have enjoyed about aviation, enjoyed about my career, is being able to help people, being able to make sure that as we look at aviation, we find ways to connect communities, we connect people, we look at experiences. If you're ever in an airport and you just watch people, just people watch.
That's my favorite.
But you see multiple types of experiences, right? And we're the catalyst for that. So that has been probably a joy for the 40 years that I've been in aviation. I started in transportation, not as an aviator person, but in bridges. So being able to go from that level of transportation, true transportation, to really more about people and the excitement that the airport and aviation industry can bring. That's been the joy over these 40 years of changing lives, helping economies, but then again, being the gateway to what people can do in their lives that's good. And sometimes you have to deal with some uneventful types of things that people have to experience. But seeing that, experiencing, and being a part of it has been the joy.
Yeah, you mentioned that you weren't always in these executive roles. How did that background shape the way you approach leadership from somebody without that technical experience?
So engineers are problem solvers. The engineering piece of the work that I've done as I started to do, being in that technical environment, really has been the backbone of getting into leadership. So that education, all of those things have lead me to be a methodical thinker, really
Mm-hmm.
analytical thinker as to how I'm going to solve problems. One of the things that I think is most important for me is, again, back to that engineering piece, we always look at data. We always need to make sure that the things that we say, the things that we design, the things that we're engineering are all based on fact and data. And so that's really been kind of the backbone of how I've even gotten into leadership, right? Having the right people in the right place to make decisions is important, but it's not always just what we think. It is about the data and it's about what's real, because a lot of times, especially in aviation, it's all about safety. It's all about the bottom line of how we're going to keep the traveling public safe. So, how do we get to that? How do we make sure that we're getting away to yes and not always saying, hey, we can't solve this problem, but we need to find a way, a solution to the
Mm-hmm.
problem? Again, I think that's a part of the leadership side, because not everyone wants to be a leader, not everyone wants to
True.
be a manager. We have to have, in engineering, you have to have a well rounded thought process. You've got to have the technical people, you have to have the people that really want to do the digging in and do the designing, which I wanted to get away from, but there has to be that level as well too. So when you think about that from a leadership perspective, then you have to also go back to that problem solving, back to that analytical side. Even when you're making decisions about HR or you're making decisions about other types of things, it's all about problem solving. So again, I think about leadership in that way, but I'm gonna you're probably gonna hear it multiple times. It is about the people.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the people that you bring into the room. It is about trusting those individuals to be experts
Mm-hmm.
in the area that they're in, and how do you use all of that talent base to make decisions that are going to impact people across this country when you think about aviation and what we're doing at an airport.
Yeah, that is a that is something to think about because you do have to trust the people that you work with and trust
Most
that they
certainly.
are going to get it done. Um, but BWI generates $11.3 billion in economic impact and supports over 107,000 jobs. When you look at
Yes.
Baltimore and the surrounding region through, the world lens, pun intended, what untapped international markets or routes represent the most significant opportunities for growth?
Well, let me start with saying this. I think that one of the things that's really important about BWI is the fact that we offer excellent domestic and international air service for our residents and our businesses and the communities around us.
Mm-hmm.
That has been a staple. And I think when you talk to people, you'll hear that, right? But now, of course, we know that we can always do better. We can always focus on more service, more types of things. But air service is not a science. Air service is one of the things that really takes time. It is about what we find in the community, what people need as far as the businesses that are in the community, as far as the resources in the community, and it's really about true what types of services airlines see as the value. So one of the things that we concentrate quite heavily on is now trying to educate the community on what that looks like. Educate to say, hey, it's not us just going to an airline and say we need new air service.
Right.
It is really about what they see as the value. How many people can they actually put in the seats for them to make their economic
Mm-hmm.
impact as well? One of the things I'm so proud when you quoted that number, $11.3 billion dollars and 107,000 jobs, when you think about that from an economic standpoint and what we do, that economic transfers to wherever we're taking our passengers to, right? That
Mm-hmm.
same value that we have in Baltimore area, in the region, that same value goes across the country. So those are the decisions that airlines are making as well
Mm-hmm.
around where that value and that economic impact can be for them as well. So we're really needing to understand what we need from our clients or what needs our clients have. We need to have those types of data, that type of information that when we talk to airlines, we can sell them on, hey, we can fill up a plane and take you to wherever.
Mm-hmm.
So really understanding what that looks like. And I really want to point out too that Southwest Airlines, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about them, but Southwest Drive is driving a lot of that from their same
Yeah.
vantage point as well. They're looking at where their clients want to go, our shared clients, I should say. They're looking at where those people want to travel, and then where you have economic resources in those communities. But when I think about the question that you ask about where those markets could be, Europe, Central America, South America, we are seeing that that's where the demographics are in this area, in this region, that the individuals there that want to fly to certain locations, that's what we're focusing in on. That's what we're really selling to the airlines, that again, we have the capacity to handle an airline or handle a route to those particular areas. Southwest also is doing the same thing with their global partners and the global alliances that they're developing to try and find out where those places are. Right now, we have that connection with Iceland Air, where they are now converting, where we can go, passengers can fly from all over the country, they can come to BWI and then fly directly to Iceland. So that is the type of service that we're looking at. Either it's connectivity or it's direct flights, but be able to have the opportunity to take the community, the people in the community, to the places they want to be. That's our driver when we think about international or even domestic air service.
Yeah. In 2024, BWI served more than 27 million passengers, which is just a little behind Dulles, but significantly more than Reagan National. You're in a three airport market, basically competing for travelers. But what does BWI offer? What's their value proposition in this mix?
Well, the word that I love that you said is value, Michelle, because that for us is what we see as the benefit of BWI. So what we have found, and this is again data, that we're more affordable than any other airport in the region. When you think about our rates that we pay, the types of services that we provide, we're the lowest when it comes to that. That remains the case, even if you think about Southwest and what they're doing to modify their business model. We're hoping that we'll stay that. Transportation is multimodal. So when you think about the uniqueness of BWI, we're unique because of the fact that we have excellent location and outstanding access. So we've got several great transit operations. We have a rail line that could have taken people from DC, could have taken them from Virginia, they could have taken them from Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, and come directly to the airport. And then be right at the airport, be able to transfer and go to different places. We also have a transit system that connects Baltimore, DC, and again, Virginia, back to the airport. So people can go from those locations, come directly here. We have a local shuttle service that is going into communities, is going into business centers right around in the county area and bringing them to the airport. We have a port and air service where we're transferring goods and services and helping with commerce and trade right here at the airport. Extensive roadway highway system. So again, the value that you see, not just the things that we have on service in regards to parking and concessions and all those things, but we have access that no one else has. So you can be able to come and do the things that you need to do out in the community, out in other cities, out in other locations, and really focus in on getting to the airport and allowing us to provide that service. So when we think about some of these big events that's going to happen, FIFA is one of them that's going to be in Philadelphia. We're looking for those people from Philadelphia. They're going to probably come right down here to the airport. They're going to fly out of the airport. They're going to fly into the airport, get on that train and go up to the different activities. So that's the value that we bring. Again, not just our internal services, but all of the access that we can have to be able to get to these lower fares, get to the flights that you need to get to, and really find convenience. And one of the things that we always say, and every time I've now met people that say, oh, I enjoy flying out of BWI, easy come, easy go. And that
Yeah.
is our motto. And people believe that.
Mm-hmm.
People see it. They can get in, they can park quickly, they can get into their flight, they can come at the last minute. We don't
Mm-hmm.
like that. TSA doesn't like it. But the fact that they can do that, that's a value. That's a value
Mm-hmm.
proposition that people enjoy. And so, again, that word value, access, makes BWI, Thurgood Marshall Airport, the place to be and the place to fly out of because of those things.
Yeah, I've been to several airports, and I will say that BWI shuttle service from the parking garage is top tier.
Yes. Well, we appreciate that, Michelle. Thank you so much.
So you mentioned Southwest. They basically account for roughly 70% of BWI's market share, which makes them the busiest airline, on the East Coast. The
Right.
level of concentration is kind of like a strength, but could be also a vulnerability, I believe. How do you think about diversifying BWI's airline portfolio, but still maintaining that partnership with Southwest?
Well, let me start with saying our partnership with Southwest is invaluable, along with our other airlines. But again, you mentioned that 70% number. So that relationship and partnership is invaluable to us.
Hmm.
But as I mentioned earlier, we're constantly working with other airlines to offer new services at BWI Marshall Airport. That's important. Our airline partners help BWI with the financial sustainability. They help us to build infrastructure and facilities. So we need to remain competitive when it comes to that. So yes, is that considered maybe a level of vulnerability? We always have to be thinking about that. We always have to have that in the back of our mind
Hmm.
because the world is changing. Every day is something that we have to think about as to whether or not the passenger will fly today. Are
Hmm.
they comfortable with flying? Will they take other forms of transportation? So that always has to be in the back of our mind.
Hmm.
But the success and growth of Southwest is influencing the success and growth of BWI Marshall.
Hmm.
We cannot deny that. For the past 3 decades, that's been the case. BW Marshall is among the largest of all the airports in Southwest network. We are the largest of their East Coast. They don't use the word hub, but we say the hub
Hmm.
for Southwest Airlines on the East Coast. But even as though they work and they change their business model, they're going to maintain their competitiveness about being friendly, customer service driven. That won't change. That will still drive people to want to fly Southwest Airlines. And we understand that. We understand their model changes, but we'll continue to work with them in all that regards. But again, we've had new airline partners to come in. We've
Hmm.
had Copa, we've had Avello, we've had Bermuda Air, Aguila Air. We just had our first inaugural flight to Aguila a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
So we'll continue to add new service. We continue to have different flights that are added, different routes, even with our existing airlines. So growth is still occurring, but yes, we do need to bring in more flights. We do need to bring in maybe even more airlines. As long as our capacity can handle that, we will continue to do that. But the partnership that we have with Southwest Airlines will continue to be valuable. We'll continue to grow, and we'll continue to see them be productive in the things that they're doing to show that growth on both sides of the equation for us.
Yeah, they just did that multi-million dollar maintenance facility at BWI. It's the first one on the East Coast. What does that investment kind of signal to you guys about how important BWI is for them strategically?
Well, listen, that hangar that they built,
Hmm.
along with the new AB connector and baggage handling system that we just opened up
Hmm.
a couple weeks ago, very, very, very exciting. But that says a lot for the commitment and the partnership that we have with Southwest Airlines. That hangar is creating jobs. They'll have technical staff there. They'll have crews there. So again, thinking about the economics that brings to the region with jobs, with indirect and indirect payment out to the community, that's going to be substantial long term for the airport. And that AB connector, I'm going to talk probably a little bit more about that, but that also shows what type of commitment that they have as we continue to expand and better the services that they want to provide to the customers, our shared customers that we have. That says a lot in regards to an airline and the devotion that they have to a community. And they're
Mm-hmm.
community orientated. They want to make sure that they're out in the community. They're showing the fact that Southwest is a partner, not only at the airport, but in the communities as well. So these types of projects show that commitment, and we'll continue to work with Southwest on the types of things that they want to do to help not only the airport be better, but also to help their, as they again change in this business model, it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
important that they continue to show the community, those that are flying the airport, that they're committed to the region.
Yeah. You mentioned this AV connector. It was 425 million, which is one of the largest capital investments in BWI history. Walk us through how this is actually going to change customer experience.
Well, listen, again, I'm an engineer by trade, so I was very fascinated to see it, and whenever you see something start on paper, even though I wasn't here when it started, but when you see something start on paper and then become a reality, and see the finished product, which is about the customer experience, that's going to deliver more efficient, convenient experience for our passengers while meeting the needs of our airline partner, which is Southwest Airlines. That
Mm-hmm.
significant improvement is all about how we want to build out the travel experience for our customer. And we're doing that in many ways. So really you talk about the biggest piece of that is a lot of what people won't even see. And that's the baggage handling system for Southwest that's
Mm-hmm.
improving reliability and increasing processing speed. We're going from 2,200 bags to 3,200 bags that can be processed through that. Think about that when you're waiting for your bag and that bag can come much sooner than it was coming before. That's all about that customer experience. And then there's a bunch of other things that we're doing that is creating that Maryland sense of place and that travel experience. So the direct
Mm-hmm.
connection between A and B, so that allows people to traverse between two concourses. We want to expand that ultimately, but being able to traverse between two concourses. So there could be a concession that you want on B, but you're in A. Now you can go to that concession, get what you want, and come back to these new upgraded gate holding areas, new types of jetways that are important. Now people can see out. That's always important. And especially when you think about the anxiety that people have when they're traveling. So being able to have some of these features also helps with that. So I mentioned those gates will have accent lighting, those boarding bridges, new comfortable seating with integrated charging points. That's something at every airport. When you ask people, it's about charging. It's charging and streaming now. So good Wi-Fi and good places to connect is important. But we have natural ambient light featuring a vaulted ceiling, translucent skylight, a high-tech electrochromatic glass for glare and energy performance. So when you see and you sit in the holding areas, you can see out, but that reflectiveness, that the sun beaming in on you, you don't get that effect, but you still get that natural light, and that's helping with energy efficiency. New spacious state-of-the-art restrooms, and our restrooms are award-winning. So we are taking that same technology that's in the other parts of the airport, and we've brought that to the AB connector. A lot of sustainability upgrades, energy efficiency, environmentally friendly, responsible materials like aluminum engineered wood beams, which is bringing again in the effect of the state of Maryland. When you look at the terrazzo, it looks like waves, so you're seeing water impacts. So again, all of this is about trying to increase that customer and travel experience. And so there's about 14,000 feet of open market space for new food, retail concessions. That's going to be a big part of us with the airport. In the next couple years, you're going to see revamped concessions across the entire airport. So the travel experience, how we deal with our customers, all of that is what we do when we start to look at design, when we start to think of these concepts. And again, this was the biggest major capital project for the airport, but it won't be the last.
Nice. Yeah, you guys just became one of the first airports to deploy Clear's biometric e-gates. How did you decide? How do you decide which innovations to kind of fast track versus the ones that you're like, we kind of need to think about this a little more?
Well, technology is driving a lot of industry right now, right? I mean, every place you turn, you're now seeing technology. You're finding easy ways to which to do different types of things. That's no different than the airport, but it is back to that efficiency and travel experience for our customer. So in this case, we partnered up with Clear and really looked at them. Clear has been in the airport as a trusted partner for a long time. And even the Clear option, you can go to multiple airports. People have seen the value in Clear option. And one thing I learned about Clear is that now you can not only use it at the airport, you can also use it at stadiums and other locations. So that value proposition for an airport person who decides, hey, I'm going to use it at the airport, now can go out to a concert or to a ball game and be able to use Clear as well. So, but when we think about that from a perspective at the airport, that expedited, easy come, easy go atmosphere that we want to create allows a passenger to come in, go through that system. Now you don't have to necessarily stop and talk to a TSA agent. I did it the other day when I was traveling, wanted to test it out. So it does make that travel experience much easier. And we want to make sure that we continue to find new types of technologies. We have some of our other federal partners who want to use technology to be able to do that. But we have to make real decisions about what that looks like, because again, the customer preference, the customer convenience, but also the customer acceptance of this types of technology is something that we have to think about. So when we're making these types of decisions on innovation, we're thinking about ease of use, accessibility, cost of installation, maintenance and operation, because once you put it in, then you got to maintain it, you got to operate it, you got to think about it long term. Staff engagement, what is it going to take, not only for the individuals that are putting it in, so in this case it was Clear and TSA, but what does that mean for my staff as well, as far as engagement in those products? Capital investment, does the airport have to do any capital investment, or is this all on that third party vendor? And then we always want to be future and forward thinking. As I say, technology is evolving, but we want to make sure that what we're doing is for the best of the airport environment, and not just because someone says, hey, this is a good product, let's do it. All of those things we have to think about as we make those decisions.
Yeah, I love the customer first mindset. This is interesting though. BWI recently launched the Hidden Disability Sunflower Program. I had no idea this even existed. It provides lanyards for passengers with non-visible disabilities. Now, accessibility usually gets treated like as a compliance rather than innovation. How are you reframing accessibility as a core part of your passenger experience rather than just ticking off a checkbox?
Well, one of the things that you mentioned is about innovation. And what I've talked to the staff about as we think about different things we're going to do, innovation and creativity has to be number one, right? We have to think out of the box when we have things like this. But the Hidden Sunflower Program initiative ensures that accessibility is a basic human-centered component of the travel at BWI Airport. When they brought that to us, I mean, when you think about that, we all have something that is considered a disability, whatever that is, small or large, we all have something. So the program exists here at airports and at other places across the country, right? So this is a universal thought. When people are here and they wear that lanyard, they can go to another airport or transportation hub and see that as well too. And accessibility is not just about offering wheelchairs or ramps. Just as you said, it has to be something that is more broad-based, something more that we're looking at. And so when these passengers have that, that's for people to recognize that, hey, there is something here. You might not necessarily be able to see it, but then that helps our customer service, that helps the people in the airport that are about customer service, our pathfinders, our ambassadors, our customer service individuals. When they see them, they can know that they may need some extra help, which is very important. One of the things that we talk about a lot right now, we've got about 7 generations of passengers coming through the airport. So you're going to have the smallest of the small and the most possibly potentially the elderly passengers that we have. In that entire range, we're going to have people with disability and accessibility needs. how are we going to accommodate those needs as we build out infrastructure, as we think about the things that we're going to do to better that travel experience. So this program here is the start of the types of things that we're going to continue to do as we look at creativity and innovation around accessibility, around disability, because again, that 7 generations of passengers are going to test us with how we have to deal with wheelchairs, how we have to deal with those that have impairments, visual or other types of disability. How are we going to deal with those individuals? That's when it goes back to that innovation. That's when it goes back to technology. But this program is a good substance, a good start and platform for the types of things you'll continue to see at the airports.
Yeah, I think that's such a cool idea. I want to switch gears to sustainability. So, the aviation industry has committed to net zero carbon emissions by 2050, with sustainable aviation fuel expected to contribute about 65% of that reduction. As somebody managing a major regional airport, what is the gap between industry rhetoric and operational reality when it comes to decarbonization?
So let me just say that this is the conversation around sustainability has been going on for several years. Several years ago, mayors, governors came together and they came up with, these sustainability initiatives across all forms of industry, right? Different ways that we could be able to tackle sustainability. One of the things that we did was a primary focus at the FAA was around that. How are we going to engage not only our airports, but industry in that conversation? And so the office that I was overseeing, we provided funding. We provided funding for not only just actual infrastructure, but also studies to be able to evaluate all the types of things that you can look at in regards to sustainability at an airport. And sustainability is a 3-pronged initiative. It's the environmental, it's the funding, and it's also the community base. So when you think about that, when you tie that back into what you asked about in regards to industry, that's where that community piece comes in. So sustainability is and will always be a core of the work that we do at MAA because of the fact that, one, we want to be a part of the initiative, but 2, it's the right thing to do in regards to the work that we do. So we're committed to operating the airport in that way that reduces our environmental footprint, uses energy and resources more efficiently, and supports the long-term health of our community. The industry is doing remarkable things around sustainable aviation fuel, around no-leaded fuel, all the types of things that have been community-based types initiatives. They just released the industry released a transition plan of how we're going to go to no lead. The industry also released a plan that talks about sustainable aviation fuel. The thing about sustainable aviation fuel and even other types of fuels that we'll be looking at it's going to be about supply and demand. The industry is going to be able to do the supply part, but it's going to depend on the demand that we have. And there's more demand right now than there is supply. So that is the gap. How do we bridge that gap? How do we find more ways of which to bridge that gap with the things that we need? The other piece of that is that all of these other innovative technologies are coming out. Advanced air mobility is going to play a major role when you talk about sustainability. But these are going to be either electric vehicles or they're going to be non-pilot vehicles that are going to look at all different types of fueling supply, right? Even hydrogen. So when you think about all of this types of sustainable activity, the airport, the aviation industry, the communities all have to come together with how we're going to make some of these types of things happen. But one real life example that we just had here at BWI Marshall was Trade Point Atlantic. It's a nearby major logistic operation created a large solar array on one of their warehouse buildings to produce energy. So BWI Marshall, we are now buying some of that clean, locally produced energy to help power our airport operations, which is significant because we are a big user of electricity. So being able to find creative ways and less expensive and clean ways of which to do that is important. So it's cheaper for us than traditional energy, and it also brings the supply of non-carbon based energy up to about 60%, which is a big number when you think about, again, that we are a large consumer of electrical. So we'll continue to work to look at new solutions, new things that we can do as technology changes, as different types of options come out. What works for the airport environment, we'll continue to take a look at that because, again, it has to be about safety and it has to be about energy efficiency and reduction. So we'll always be a player in that because, again, we are a large consumer, and airports are one place people start to look, any place in transportation when it comes to carbon reduction. And so we'll continue to do our part in that.
Yeah. It's the evolution of BWI. I love it. Your predecessor, Ricky Smith, he won significant awards for BWI's diversity work, including the Launchpad program for minority and women-owned businesses and a 300% increase in racial diversity among the executive management. You're inheriting something pretty strong. What is your vision for building onto that?
So let me start by saying that throughout my career, I've been committed to building a strong, diverse industry from the time I was in college through all of my career, working with small businesses, working with individuals and bringing them into the industry. That has been the backbone of my career. So building upon this, doing something to advance that is I'm no stranger to that. So I'm committed to that as well. But small and local businesses, and all the statistics will tell us this, they're the backbone of our economy. So that Launchpad program that we had, that success of that program is a testament to those small businesses driving that economic impact, that $11.3 billion that we talked about. But that one-year program will now evolve and it'll expand. So our new concessionaire developer is going to be working with those launchpadders to help them evolve to the next step of their business, right? What is the next step of taking them out of a small local business launchpad opportunity and building out their business to be larger, to engage with larger companies, be able to be partners with those larger companies. So that's the next evolution of that program and how it will continue to expand. So there always continues to be opportunities for our government leaders, for us to find ways that we're going to continue to build on these small businesses and on diversity of smaller types of opportunities. And again, giving greater opportunity to those firms to build out and be stronger economic value to the airport and the community. But collaborations and partnerships are most important in that. It doesn't happen individually. It is about all of us coming together to help with policies, regulations, different types of things that are going to drive that business model for these smaller business. But let me say this, to me, diversity is more than racial. And we hear it all the time. We talk about it all the time. So it's the expansion of ideas, culture, and life experiences. These are the values that are important to me when I think about, again, as I spoke about, bringing the right people to the table, bringing multiple ideas to the table to make real decisions. That's where the diversity part comes into play. So airport are big businesses, big centers of employment. So the staff that we have must be creative. They got to be big picture thinkers. And I'll continue to promote that with staff on diversity of thought, providing equitable opportunities for growth and inclusion in the success of not only airport, but how the airport plays in the national airspace system. Because again, we're a system of airports. When one airport is successful, we're all successful. If one airport fails in the work that we need to do, then that impacts the national airspace system. And that's where we want to make sure that we are playing an important part. So it's important for all of our industry colleagues to think about access to networking, to workshops, to training, so that we can think about these small small business. We can think about how we can be more creative in bringing in ideas, bringing in the culture that is global into the airport environment, into the decisions that we make. And so again, as you asked about building upon that, that's a forever thing. That's a forever way that we have to think about the airport environment. We have to think about the industry as a whole, and we'll continue to be significant in that at BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport.
Yeah, I mean, you are a black woman engineer leading a major airport in an industry that's, historically struggled with diversity. What advice would you give to young women, particularly women of color, who are considering careers in aviation but don't see themselves represented in their leadership?
Well, Michelle, I'm gonna tell you, this is a big passion for me. Being in this industry, being a African American woman who has done a lot of wonderful things, but it has been struggle a lot of times. But I just want to give you a couple things as to the why I think that way. So I was the first African American woman to graduate from the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Toledo. I was the first African American woman to hold both a chief engineer and a chief development officer at two of the airports I worked for. I was the first African American woman to hold the position of associate administrator of airports for the FAA. And now I'm the first African American woman to hold a position here as the executive director and CEO of the Maryland Aviation Administration. But what all that says is that truly I believe that I've been put in all of these positions for a reason. I believe that truly if God's purpose for my life has been to provide opportunity, not just for myself, but others behind me. So when I think about that, and the statement is, I tried to find the quote of who said it, but the fact that you may be the first, but you never want to be the last. So when I think about that, and I think about how I have, again, been a part of my career the entire time, is to really understand what others are needing in regards to building themselves up, finding opportunity in this industry, succeeding in this opportunity and in this industry, and what that means. How can I play a significant part in that? But I really want to say that there's so many opportunities across the aviation industry. You don't have to hold those positions that I've held. You don't have to do those things, because almost every type of thing that students are studying right now in universities, from engineering, architecture, from HR to IT to multiple types of services, legal, multiple types of services are offered in the aviation and aerospace system. So there's so many things that people can do to come into this industry and succeed in this industry. But as I go out and I speak to younger women and generational types of women in regards to this all the time, my message is primarily the same. Understand your emotional intelligence. Women are born nurturers, but when we're in leadership, you must balance your emotion as a strength. You must build on your brand. You must be able to express your brand. You must be able to take chances to make that first impression. There's only one time that you get a chance to show someone who you are, and sometimes that's on the first time. You may never get another opportunity. So that's how important that your brand is. Know your worth and don't be afraid to protect it. So many times, young women, as they come into the profession, or even when we become seasoned, we leave money on the table because we don't evaluate our worth. We don't necessarily express our worth, and we don't protect our worth. So we need to do that. Know the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. I say this all the time because mentorship is important. It helps you to motivate you. It keeps you. But a sponsor is the person who's talking about you in the room that you're not in. That's the person that's promoting you as an individual, as a leader, as a part of the team, to make you better and to promote you and give you opportunities that you may never have. The other part of that is dream the biggest of dreams, and know that the smaller dreams and challenges are likely to come before that big dream comes. Don't be afraid to fail, because failure means you become more successful on the back end because you learn from the things that you didn't do well and you find opportunity in those things to succeed. And then always, and again, this is me in regards to my religious background, no matter who it is that you see as a higher power, pray about the things that you need, ask for the things that you need, because again, we're all on a life's plan. Whoever put you on that plan, whoever you see to be your spiritual leader, they put you on that plan for a reason, and you have to do all that you need to do to be successful in it, but ask for what you need in regards to that. As I mentioned, I talked about internships, mentorships. Those things are important in regards to building relationships and finding, if you don't see someone who is operating in the space that you want to see and want to propel to, that's where you will find those. You'll find them in internships. You'll find them in mentorships. You'll find them in places that you sometimes don't recognize that they are. But that's what I would say to any young woman and anyone actually that's entering into a profession that's scary, right? It is scary to be into some of these professions where people don't look like you. People aren't necessarily accommodating to the things that you want to do. But again, we have to have a plan. We got to be strong, and we have to realize that failure, it comes with the territory, but failure is not an option to just say, I'm not going to move on and try and do better.
That's amazing advice. Yeah. I mean, you've been putting your foot down wherever you go. You've won Women in Aviation Excellence Legacy Award, the Women Who Move the Nation Award. When you think about your legacy at BWI, what does success look like for you 5 years from now?
And I'm going to go back again to the people. To me, if I think about 5 years from now, I want to be known for building a culture that values people, delivers thoughtful growth, and puts the passenger experience at the center of every decision that I've made. So that legacy will be rooted in truly having a succession plan for the leaders of the future. In this organization, in the community, wherever that looks like. Understanding the growing aviation the needs that are there, strong partner relationships, and connected to the community and community leaders. So to get to that 5-year goal of thinking about what this environment will look like, what this airport will look like, what the community will look like, will be about building those relationships, building those partnerships, in regards to what I do. So my first year at the airport, and I haven't even reached a year yet also, but it seems like it's been a little longer.
I know.
I really tried to do that, right? I really have tried to get out into communities, talk about the vision, talk about all the good work that we've done, talk about the future of what the airport can be, talk about the people, the dedicated staff that come into work every day to provide that customer travel experience, to make sure the airport is safe, to make sure all of our equipment is functioning properly, but to make sure that, one, we're taking care of every passenger that comes through the door. So just as we mentioned the Sunflower program, as we mentioned elderly passengers that come in, as we mentioned accessibility needs of our passengers that come in, that's what we have to do every day to be able to build out this community and build out the community around us. So again, when I think about my legacy, I want people to remember that that's what was important to the airport. And that's what, as a leader, I try to instill, that people think about how we work together, how we treat each other, but how we treat our traveler passengers.
That is amazing. Also, perfect note to end on. Shannetta, it's been great talking to you.
Well, Michelle, I thank you for the opportunity. I again, when I think about 40 plus years in the industry, you see so much, right? But again, it always comes back to the people. It always comes back to how you treat people and how you want to be treated, and how we've got to bring the next evolution of folks into aviation, into the transportation entity. We've got to go out and build this bench, because it is a struggle when you think about where the industry is evolving. This new advanced air mobility is going to change our industry drastically. And we need big picture thinkers. We need new people to think about how do you create aviation for the future. And so, again, I'm always excited about it. I'm always eager to talk about it. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you today and share with your audience, because BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport, we will be the premier airport out of those three you talked about. We're going to be the premier airport around the things that are important, and all the things that we talked about today are what's important for our traveler, for our passengers, and for all of us that work at the airport to give that experience to our passengers.
Yes. Thank you. Everybody, you hear that? BWI Premier Airport.
Yes, indeed.
But thank you so much for joining me. To learn more about our events, insights, and member news, visit WTCI.org. And you can also connect with us on all social channels at WTCI Institute. Until next time.